Excellent. All right. So hello and welcome to our scholarship Q&A. My name is Emily Dougherty and I'm a study abroad advisor here at UND. And joining me today are Dr. Yee Han Chu, Academic Support and Fellowship Opportunities Coordinator, Nicole who studied abroad for an academic year at Hanyang University in South Korea and is a recipient of the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship. So for those watching this recording, if you have any follow-up questions that either weren't addressed or need additional information, feel free to email us your questions either at und.studyabroad@und.edu or yee.chu, that's yee.chu @und.edu. So without further ado, we'll get to our questions. First things first, why should someone apply for an international scholarship?
I could start and just kind of make the pitch that for obvious reasons, one is the financial assistance, right? So you might be interested to study abroad, but you may not have the financial resources to secure that opportunity. So there are scholarships available to assist you in that, on that financial end of things. So for example, the Fulbright, which allows you to study abroad or do research abroad or teach English abroad. It's a fully funded opportunity. So they pay for your, from the point of travel, getting on the plane over there, living expenses, all of those things. And most recently, they'll even consider paying for some visa fees. So there's the issue of economics that is very helpful. But for something like that, it's hard to quantify exactly what those numbers are. But there are some scholarships like the board that have put financial numbers on there, so you know exactly what you're getting. So for that program that allows you also to go abroad and really fully immerse yourself in a cultural experience, depending whether you're an undergraduate student or graduate student, it can hit between $20,000 to $30,000 so on crafting a budget that gives you that wiggle room to lay out all the expenses. So that is a very generous amount of money to assist you with your abroad experiences. Nicole, did you want to add anything else with regard to that particular benefit?
Yeah, I think the biggest worry, I think, for any student planning to go abroad is the cost. So I think any scholarship, just throwing yourself out there and applying and, you know, having that potential to get any amount of money to help it, anything is like worth so much in the end. Like when I got the Gilman, that helped pay for airfare, which I might not have been able to cover myself. So it's any amount helps. And I think that's the biggest reason. And like, that's the biggest like driving factor to applying.
Mm-hmm. I want to kind of piggyback off of that, and that though that is a great incentive, I doubt if you'll actually win a scholarship if you put that as the lead argument as to why you should be the recipient.
Yeah.
So I will just put that in there. Another advantage, because many of these programs, I would say, supplement study abroad. And so they typically allow students a chance to develop language skills or cultural experience that many college campuses do not offer, like learning the language, Arabic. I mean, no, not many programs offer that, or Japanese, or Portuguese, or those kinds of pieces. So it's really a powerful skill development opportunity to learn skills, cultural knowledge, and I would add on to that character development, right? So you have to show kind of a flexible mindset, capacity to adapt to different cultures. These are all skill sets that I think will support you in the immediate sense of kind of what you're trying to learn as a student, but also in your professional sense when you graduate and move on and try to apply these skills from this abroad experience. So those two pieces I want to add. Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great pitch there. That actually kind of aligns with what Nicole and Yee Han were just saying. What makes for a successful scholarship candidate?
Nicole, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is like flexible, I guess. I think a key thing that most like review boards are looking for when they look at a scholarship application is someone who's flexible to their situation. I mean, you're going abroad, you have to be able to take on kind of anything that goes on when you're there and you're alone. So I think showing that you're able to be flexible and that you're able to be open-minded is very important, as well as someone who's just generally put together. I mean, you don't want to send in an application that's all over the place, doesn't really make sense, which is why it's very important to get help when you do apply. Before sending in that application, get a peer or get an advisor to go over your application and make sure it makes sense, because that's something I didn't do well when I was applying for the first couple scholarships. So I think a successful candidate knows who they are and they're able to showcase that well.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. I would agree. The words that come to mind is actually an intelligence about yourself. So I call it, in the literature, they might call it successful intelligence. I think candidates who know themselves, know what they want to do, know where they want to land 5 years from the time of application, or 10 years, those are the ones that I think want to fund. And that's one of the hardest questions for applicants to think about when they write their essays and whatnot, is who am I and where do I want to go? Because the end goal isn't the scholarship. It's in itself, the end goal is you. They're there to help you get to where you want to go. So if you make the case that I just want to win this scholarship, that story is incomplete, and you will not be supported or funded for that. They want to know, how are you going to use your language experience, cultural experience, to further advance what you want to do. So I think what Nicole said was great. It's a certain kind of intelligence about yourself, and that's what they're looking for. And I will also add that each scholarship, though we're talking in general terms, are unique in terms of what they want. So it's very important to thoroughly look at the website and their mission and the type of candidate they want and what they're offering, and to be able to write to that offering so it's a clean match. So I will just say that, yes.
That's fantastic insight, and actually aligns with what like I know our career services colleagues say when you're applying for a job, to cater your application, your resume.
Yes.
It sounds very similar to this scholarship discussion.
It is. And I would even add, following up on the career, some scholarship requires you to submit maybe a resume or something, or fill out some document that lists all of these elements. And it's good to consult with the career services too for that, because you want to pick and choose experiences that, again, align with what the scholarship is looking for. I mean, in some ways, in real life, we all kind of do all different kinds of things, but there's going to be some pruning that has to take place. And so, yes, career services, and as Nicole would say, trying to find that singular, that storyline, that vision of who you are, and be able to share that vision with somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So recognizing that career services could be involved, a tutor or an assistant, as far as applying is involved, how early should a student consider the preparation stage? How long might it take, or how early should they start considering applying?
Nicole, how long did it take you?
Well, I was a little bit late to the game, so I really only had like 2 weeks to prepare my Gilman application, and it was really rushed and not that great. Looking back, however, I probably would have preferred to look into the Gilman or look into the other scholarships I did apply for when they first opened. I mean, when they first like put out those reports of like, okay, this is what you need to write about for the essays. This is what you need to get prepared. I would like to start thinking about it then and develop that over time, because I think having something that you like put more love into has a potential to do better than something that's, you know, rushed and not like looked over and you just kind of send it in and push it out. So I think it kind of varies how long it should take to prepare for an application, depending on how big of an application it is. I mean, comparing the Fulbright to the Gilman, those are 2 different ball games. You know, the Gilman's a little bit of a smaller international scholarship, whereas like the Fulbright, you know, there's people who take years to develop a proper thesis and like a proper purpose statement. So I think it really depends on what you're going for and like who's helping you.
Nicole, that's a really good point. So the Fulbright, as I said before, you know, allows you to either teach English, you know, in an international classroom, or to apply for a graduate program in an international university, or do research in an international lab somewhere, or it doesn't have to be a lab, but just broadly defined research, go abroad. And for those who want to do the research, they would need to kind of look at that way early. And I would even advise a year in advance, because they have to secure support abroad, overseas, somebody who's going to fund you, support you, provide a place, mentoring, resources for you to work there. So you need to be looking at least a year in advance, in my mind, to say, okay, will you support me? And then will you write my letter to say that you will support me? That Fulbright will fund, but you assist. It really depends. And I would even say that some of the scholarships, though the portal date opens on a day and maybe you're given 2 months or maybe 3 months before it closes, for some of that, I even advised even to do the writing and the planning even earlier than the date when the portal opens. And that depends on kind of where you're at with your writing skills and how comfortable you are and how well you know yourself and what you want to do. I like to use the birthing metaphor for this one. It takes 9 months to create a baby, and I would like you to kind of consider in general, like 9 months to create a solid, viable, competitive application. I mean, if you were ever entertaining wanting to be a parent, you don't suddenly have that idea, say, I'm going to be a parent and I'm going to make this happen. It has to sit, you ruminate on it, you think about it. So going abroad is something it takes time. You think about it maybe a year in advance, maybe 2 years in advance, and you just let the idea just sink in and see if you have the flexibility or the creativity, the vulnerability to try to go and risk this. So I would even advise students who are even thinking about this to come and visit our office, visit our peer advisors, even before when the portal opens, because many times the questions don't change very much. So you still have access to the application and you just can think about it. That's what I would recommend. And many times they're open during the fall semester when it's crazy busy. So use the summer to start planning and thinking about what you want to write, and contact us. We are here. I'm here. At least I'm here, except for July, sorry. But I'm here for most of the summer months to help you craft that. So anyway, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. It can be helpful to have that time to ruminate, as you're saying, but also I like the idea if a student needs a recommendation that you allow your recommender that time to contemplate, and if they have to write a formal letter or just a quick paragraph, or if and I talk about this with students a lot with their study abroad application, we ask for a recommendation from an academic advisor or faculty. It allows you that time, if you've planned it in advance, to build that relationship and not kind of throw that out there to someone who's like, wait, we only met once, I'm not sure if I can yet.
Yes. If you want that person to write a recommendation letter for you again, you do the best that you can to ask them in a timely way, in a way that works with their schedule. Because you might want them to write something for you once more.
Yes, and so recognizing that there are quite a few scholarships, we're talking in general, there's a few different scholarship names that have been tossed around. How competitive are these scholarships? Is it possible to say in general, or identifying a few specific ones?
I pulled up some numbers. I mean, unless Nicole, but I didn't talk about the Gilman. I don't know, what is your sense of things, Nicole, with the Gilman?
I think the Gilman tries to be a little fair with like who's getting the scholarships in terms of like location. So I know that like sometimes in smaller population areas, they do try to be a little bit more forgiving there. So if they haven't had a student from North Dakota per se for a couple of years, they might look and like be a little bit lenient in those applications. I'm not saying that all scholarships are like this by any means, because they're really not, but I did get the sense that they did try to spread out their money a little bit more and the scholarships a little bit more with that scholarship. But I know that like the Fulbright's not like that by any means. The Fulbright's very selective, I think, of who they choose to give scholarships to in that sense.
Right. Okay, yeah. So so the Fulbright, it's kind of gross generalization, they accept about 20% of their applicants. But it really depends on which country. So if you were to go to the Fulbright website, there is this little prompt on the upper right-hand corner where you can actually go to the country and find out how many people apply to either teach or research or go to grad school in that particular country. So you can see the actual numbers of how many people applied and how many people were accepted. And so that'll give you more specifics. And you can see there's a big range. And so part of it, at least with the Fulbright pieces, it's a bit of strategy. Which ones do you want to apply to, given that you know what the acceptance rate is on that? The CLS is a little bit actually more competitive. On average, about 10% of students are accepted for that. And then we swing in another direction, which I didn't know until I looked up the numbers. The Boren, so just backups here. For those who are not familiar with the CLS, that's Critical Language Scholarship. And that is a scholarship that's for the summer. And I think it's very popular among students because it doesn't take away from kind of your regular course programming. But it is an intensive language learning where you will go abroad, stay with the host family, where it's you're in the classroom for like half of the day, learning at an accelerated rate. These languages not typically offered on campuses, but they are identified critical to the federal government. So that's about 10%. And then we have the Boren, which is a cousin of the Critical Language Scholarship. I always said a cousin. It's very similar. So it's similar language learning opportunities, but longer than that summer. So at least hopefully 6 months in another country. But it's not necessarily based, it's emphasis language and cultural experiences, right? So it's longer and you are asked to kind of give back. So the amount of time you're abroad with the award, you have to kind of give back and work for the federal government when you return. And so it's a great opportunity if you know the federal government is where you want to land, because they offer you a lot of assistance when you get home for jobs and whatnot. But with that said, here's some numbers from the 2020 poll, right, that we just worked through. So for the Boren scholarship, that's scholarships for undergrads. There were 784 applicants and 217 recipients. So that's about 27% acceptance for the undergrads. And then for the fellowships, which are the grad students, there were 268 applicants and 119 recipients. So that's about 44%, which is much improved. So you have a higher chance of getting a Boren if you're a grad student. But then I will say that scholarships abroad can swing on the very, very competitive end. So if you're looking, for example, to do a grad program at Oxford, right? That's through the Rhodes. You're looking more like smaller. I would say single digit acceptance, all right? Single digit. Or if you are looking to study in China, the Schwartzman, I was just looking into that number, so I have a student that wanted to apply there. Their acceptance is 2.7%, which is even more competitive than getting into Stanford, that is here. So it ranges all over the place, right? So yes, there you go. I mean, this is kind of all over and it depends. Mm-hmm.
I think that's great insight again, because it shows the reality of the situation. Because for anybody watching this recording and is mildly or significantly intimidated by those percentages of acceptance rates, I think that really aligns with the prep is key, that you don't want to be submitting something that you're not proud of or that hasn't been viewed by at least 1 or 2 people, trusted.
Or 3 or 4.
Or 3 or 4, 10 maybe, as many as possible.
Yes.
So I think that really aligns with that prep advice. But on the flip side, I think it's great because it shows how prestigious these awards can be, what an impact they can be on your resume or discussing them with grad school or just in general. And then third, we have UND students who have been awarded these before. So it's definitely not incredible. It's not an area of the world that we're just so significantly underfunded or underrepresented in these scholarships. I think, like to what Nicole was saying, sometimes being an applicant from North Dakota is actually in your benefit because we don't have as many students going abroad as, say, New York State might. So
Right.
To kind of piggyback off of that broad range of competitiveness, it's like broad range of applicability to what our students could be achieving as well. So thank you for that. So if a student's interested then in kind of taking that next step, they're like, okay, I'm interested in studying abroad next year. Sounds like now is a great time to start looking at scholarships. As we say in our office, it's never too early to consider. Where might they look for additional information or maybe tips on applying?
Nicole?
I think the best place would be looking on the UND website. I mean, there's a huge list of the scholarships, international and national, but also just contact Yee Han and contact the study abroad office and ask, because when I was applying, I had no idea where to look for scholarships that would be good for me. And then I stopped into the study abroad office and got some direction on what to do and like what to apply for. Because it kind of depends on where you want to go for some of these scholarships. Some of these scholarships, like the Freeman Asia, is only applicable to Asian study abroad ventures. So, I mean, if you're going to Europe, you can't really apply for that and expect to get it. So it depends on where you want to go, how long you want to go there for, that kind of thing. So just ask for help, definitely. This isn't something you should be doing completely on your own.
I was going to add too, because as part of the introduction, Nicole is one of my National Scholarship Peer Advisors. So it's just not me, but I have students who are assisting their peers kind of with the application, because it is a long process in terms of application. It's nice to get support, and we have launched kind of a monthly little newsletter to kind of highlight the various scholarships that are open and some stories about students who've won or have applied. And so if you're interested in that, getting, I don't know how the word is, subscription, but anyway, getting onto the email list, reach out to me or even Emily, because I always send it to Emily as well. And then I can put you on the list and you can get it every month. So you know kind of what is open and what's available. So so in addition to the website, it can go straight to your email box and just as a reminder. So yes.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, the study abroad office, we updated our website over the summer to have our scholarships page be more specific for the different options. So like Nicole was saying, some are location based, there's some that are based, some that are national versus affiliate with some of our affiliate providers. So we have those categorized differently now, which I think looks a lot greater and is more straightforward. And you can also see some of that overlap. So for example, the Freeman Asia that Nicole had mentioned is under location based, but also national scholarships, because you'll be with a national pool of students versus just applying to a specific program. So we link back to each other. So yes, I'm a resource as well as the Scholarships and Fellowships Office. And also highly encourage students to connect with the peer advisors. It's great to talk to staff advisors such as Yee Han or myself, but peers I think can really get you that next level, especially since they will have experienced the application process themselves, which is a whole different level of understanding how it goes.
Yes.
Yeah, and so tying this in as we kind of start to wrap up a bit here, are students eligible to apply for more than one scholarship? And is there a benefit in applying multiple cycles? So say you're interested in going abroad, you're not sure if sophomore or junior year, is it worth applying multiple times?
Nicole?
I think so. Yeah, I think definitely apply for more than one scholarship. First of all, I mean, like I was saying earlier, anything can help. And anything can give you that experience, that extra experience, so apply for as many as you can find that are applicable to you at the time you want to go. Or if you're not sure when you want to go, I say definitely applying for more than one. I think most scholarships allow you to apply multiple times. I think you might have to read like the fine print in there because some might not. But if I'm right, I know the Fulbright and as well as the CLS both allow you to apply for more than one round of scholarships. But I do think it's important to kind of try plan that out a little bit more, decide when you want to go abroad. I think that's very important to applying, because like Yee Han was saying earlier, with the Fulbright, you have to be able to plan out ahead where I'm staying with, who's going to help conduct my research, etc. You need to be able to plan that out first, and you don't want to tell them, well, actually, I'm going 6 months, a year later than expected, and have them, have a conflict problem. So I think try plan your own schedule before throwing yourself into all the scholarship work.
And to piggyback off of that, make sure when you're looking on the website, look at that eligibility section. That really tells you, that would answer your question. Oftentimes you can apply more than once. You just don't want to age out. So oftentimes there is like an upper limit in terms of year of study or how old you are. So for the Fulbright, actually you need your bachelor's degree secured before you can go. So you can apply as a senior as long as you've graduated and you have your degree by the launch time in fall for Fulbright. But you just have to make sure the upper limit would be you don't have your PhD yet. So you can keep applying and applying. And then likewise, if it's undergraduate as an upper limit, like maybe junior year or senior year, then of course, as Nicole would say, you need a plan. Then start thinking about which year, how many years do you have to work on this. So yes, apply to as many as your time and your hand can handle as you write.
That's fantastic. And it also ties into a key thing that the Study Abroad Office always advises, which is connecting with your academic advisor to ensure that study abroad in general is aligning with your academic plan. This ties in as well with the scholarship conversation. We're three sides of the same triangle.
Yes.
In the loop.
Yes. And it does link to your professional plan too.
Mm-hmm.
Something like this, like I said, getting aboard, and I believe the Fulbright and even the CLS, it's a fast track to federal positions. And so you get preferential consideration when you apply for jobs post-graduation. So they're all sort of linked together. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. This was fantastic. I appreciate you both taking the time to participate in our Study Abroad Fair recorded sessions. And we'll make sure for those viewing this recording that you have access to the email addresses and the websites that we listed right around the recording. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Emily and Nicole.